Hello and welcome to the first episode of our Maverrik sales podcast. Now, today I'm here with my colleague Curtis Cheer.
Hello, nice to be back. It's been a while since we've ran podcasts.
Yeah.
But just to introduce myself, I'm the business development director at Maverrik. So essentially, all of the training we do to teach people how to use LinkedIn to close clients, I'm having to do internally.
Yeah, perfect. And I'm Josh, and I'm part of the business development team with Curtis, and I'm the business development manager. Now, this is our first episode of many that we're going to be doing on the channel. And today we're going to be talking about growing your personal brand on LinkedIn. Okay. So I'm just going to start off with a question straight away.
Yeah.
And it's, why is growing your personal brand important? And what advice would you give someone who's starting off?
Okay. Firstly, why is growing your personal brand important? I think these days, even if you're the best seller and the best communicator, if you can't get in front of people, you're really going to struggle. Especially in this digital world now, if you can't market yourself the right way, you just won't have a chance of speaking to anyone or even closing people. So now it's way more important, especially with how popular LinkedIn's becoming, to really grow your personal brand, but also to make it feel personal and be authentic. And then that can lead to sales and everything. In terms of some advice on how you should be doing it, it's really about dedicating some time. I mean, we're having this challenge right now, aren't we, Josh, where me and you, we're dedicating a couple of weeks just to do some podcasts, just to do some audio events. We're posting every single day on LinkedIn. We're growing our network, but it's just about going, can you dedicate and prioritize some time? Not just going, personal brand is important, so I'm just going to say it's important, but then end up not doing anything. We will dedicate some specific time. We'll have some clear actions and some key goals, but most importantly, from the get-go, have a good plan in place. So, for example, we spoke several times over the past month to go, actually, what do we want to achieve? What's our main goal with our following? What sort of audience do we want to build? And then we've gone, okay, for us to get there, how are we going to get there? So are we posting content? What does that look like? Who do we want to communicate with? Who are we engaging with on podcasts? What topics are going to be relevant? Who are we going to try and get engaged in our podcast? That sort of plan.
Yeah, I think it's good to have an overall plan with anything you're doing, and especially with your personal brand. It should be looked at the exact same way. I think as well, like you mentioned, the way selling is going as a whole, it is important that you are building up your personal brand. From a sales point of view as well, I know we speak to a lot of people where they go, I don't really have the time. I've got my cold calling, I've got my cold emails, I'm traveling, I'm doing a lot of expos, etc. And because there's no instant results with it, essentially, I think people find it hard and it falls to the bottom of their to-do list.
Yeah, absolutely right. I think I seen someone's post the other week where they said building your personal brand is a long game. And it actually is.
Yeah.
And I think people get fooled by going, okay, I've got LinkedIn, I can share content, or I've got any other social media. It should be quick and easy because that's what we're used to. Social's just very quick. There's always content there. You're seeing people do it very well. You're seeing people say, I've got 100,000 followers in a year, or I've done X, or I've closed this many clients in a month. So we always compare ourselves and we get frustrated when we post for a good couple of months and actually you don't see any returns. But sometimes it could just be finding your feet and working out, actually, that didn't really work because of X, or I need to do more of this, or actually speaking to these clients, I've seen that this works. But if I was to ask you a question, Josh, because you're always on LinkedIn, when you're scrolling through the feed and you're looking at people's profiles, what ones tend to stand out for you more?
I think now it's either personal type of content. So you'll see people when they're traveling, they'll post a lot, even if they're doing stuff like golf, any pictures of running, etc. They seem to be very, very popular at the minute.
And I think it's just because people buy from people, and I know everyone always says that, but it feels very real. It feels very authentic. And just like anything, we almost get really into a story.
Yeah.
So if we see, yes, Josh is running marathons and actually he's learned this experience and work, and then the next thing he's doing this for charity, or the next thing he's actually working with and seeing a client, and physically we can follow that. We all want to know what happens next, and you see this a lot on Instagram where a lot of people are doing their I'm going to post every single day until I hit 100,000 followers, or golf ones, because we play golf. I'm going to post every day until I go from normal handicap to scratch.
Yeah.
I think people just almost, one, we want to know how they're doing it. So it's almost like, can we learn some things and can we find some shortcuts that way? But at the end of the day, we always go, actually, this is a real person following their journey. What's the end going to look like?
Yeah, and I would just like to add to that as well. When it comes to your personal brand, it's important to make it feel like it's you.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people will see influencers, people posting stuff on LinkedIn or on YouTube or on Instagram, and they want to replicate exactly what someone else is doing.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, you want to be known for who you are, and you're not going to be able to keep a persona up long time anyway.
Yeah. And I think it's important to just almost monitor and see what trends are working.
Yeah.
So you find actually some people are doing selfie video content where you're just recording a 30-second video on your phone and you go, actually, that's really good for me to do. Then it's just almost taking those types of trends. But if someone's going, okay, I'm going to be talking about this specifically and I'm really about personal branding, and you're going, actually, that might work for me. Some people can start to see through that because, like you said, it's very hard to keep up long term. But then also it doesn't feel very authentic if you're speaking on someone else's behalf and not something you actually truly believe on. So yeah, completely agree.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if you can speak about personal experiences, I know it is your personal brand, but people will fabricate a lot of stuff, then it just makes it easier. And it puts you in a position where if you are having a conversation with a client, then it's more relatable because you've actually done what you're talking about as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know some people go, okay, how does this benefit in sales? One, if you can tie it like together with some of the value you offer, but generally we've had posts and engagement from so many different random people when we've talked from other aspects of my life. So, for example, we used to go for runs now and again, and we still do time to time. Weirdly, when I've posted about a run now and again, because I know a lot of people do it on LinkedIn as well, and same with other platforms. I have a lot of sales directors and a lot of senior people connected on my profile. When I actually posted that sort of stuff, I actually get a lot of random sales directors engage me. Ones that I've never spoke to, ones that I've not even prospect, and I go, "That's weird. They found that interesting and they've engaged with me."
Yeah.
Similar with so every start Thursday of a month, me and the sales team and Josh go basically for a breakfast where we can basically talk about any upcoming ideas. We can review any statistics that are going well or not going well. It just gives us that fresh environment to think of more creative stuff. When we post about that, how good is the engagement from like
tenfold?
Yeah. From our target audience as well. Do you mean not like randomers and like not like just colleagues and friends? You're getting senior people go, oh, I used to do that with my sales team. That's a great culture to have. Or have you found it's improved? So you're already getting into conversations, which is what social's about.
Yeah, definitely. With that being said, and just to add on to what you made there, the point you made there, how have you been able to pick up business through your personal brand? And do you have any like examples of conversations you were able to pick up from it?
Yeah, so really when I've talked about my experience, and I'm talking about my own experience, because we're big advocates of LinkedIn and social selling, that's only just started for me when I joined Maverrik. Like historically, when I worked at other sales companies, it was your typical cold calling, face to face. Do you mean hard cold calling, like chairs are for bears, like all of that environment? Social selling to me was like, oh, it's new. I know you've got to have LinkedIn, but I just didn't have one. So now I know how powerful LinkedIn is, but also I've got the scenario of where a lot of salespeople are, which is what we're targeting. When I talk about that stuff and I tie my experience together, going, oh, actually, yes, cold calling used to work great for me, but there were sometimes you couldn't get hold of prospects or it felt quite pushy. This is where LinkedIn comes into it.
Yeah.
So actually, me only focusing on my own experiences and challenges and the stuff I've learned from previous roles, I've actually got business just from tying those two together. And I've not tried to shove Maverrik down people's throats and say, look, you need to jump on a LinkedIn workshop because of X and you're going to get so much conversion. But it's just from going genuinely, I've been in sales for the past 15 years. The past 10 years was your old school sales. I've had this challenges. this is the benefits I found with social selling. Just that truth and that authenticity of this is how I overcame the challenge.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people went, you know what, I'm in that challenge as well. So they've seen how I got from A to Z myself. So they've gone, okay, I think I can get there as well. But
Yeah.
did you have something similar? Obviously, you're always on calls with people.
Yeah. So I think overall, when it comes to selling and talking about like past experiences, and like you mentioned, you came from a cold calling background, similar to what a lot of people in the industry would have come from. So I always say it's striking the balance, isn't it? You want to be doing your cold calling and you want to be doing what you've done previously. But if you can get all of that personal stuff, I mean, I'm not saying you have to take a picture every week of you walking your dog, but even any stories that are relatable, something that you can have that initial conversation with someone with, it just helps build up those relationships down the line.
Yeah, and I think if you're not already following, our founder Dean Seddon, he's very good at it in the sense that we help people grow their businesses through LinkedIn and social selling.
Yeah.
Obviously, Dean's a business owner himself, so some of the content he shares are some of the up and down stories he had as a startup and as a business owner and scaling his business. So I think when we target our small business side, a lot of business owners went, actually, that's quite relatable
Yeah.
to me. And I had those stresses, or I'm still receiving that stress. So actually, they're starting to buy into Dean, and then they're meeting Maverrik, social selling, and they're buying into that stuff as
Yeah.
well. Just through the story and the personal brand.
And yeah, that's like similar to you with the cold calling, because you can talk about, oh, how you have to dial 100 people per day.
Mm-hmm.
A salesperson's going to relate to that very, very easily. And then you're going to be able to come up with a solution if they don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, definitely. And we've got all sorts of clients where, and I'm not talking it's like it's just a hobby. It's more like a passion where we've got some who are obsessed with golf, some who are obsessed with running, some who are obsessed with charitable support. I've had some clients who they've talked about the mental resilience with golf and how it's helped them with their business skills and their business, but also they found business through people who are looking for help and support with their business, but also love golf at the
Yeah.
same time. And they go, great, I can see that connection. So I really buy into what you're saying.
Yeah, definitely. And I know there's a big stigma around it, but how do you think with professionals especially, they can get that balance where they're not going too full on influency, but they are still building a personal brand?
Okay, so how can a professional use personal branding without looking too leisurely, should we say?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a challenge that a lot of people always have is when they see a lot of these pictures and they go, how is my life that exciting? Or if it's not that exciting, do I have to just take loads of random pictures of me at the beach, me with my dog, like you say? And no, not really. I mean, like we've seen a lot of people who have great personal brands, and some of their pictures are pictures like me and you doing a podcast right now. It's
Yeah.
it's nothing special, really, is it? But actually, why don't we update people on stuff that we're doing? So taking a picture of this, or if you're having a team meeting, why don't you just go, actually, hold on, hold fire. There's 5 of us in the office here. Why don't we take a picture of our team?
Yeah.
And it's not just it's not that you're bragging. Like it's more just that you're updating people. You're letting them know what's happening. You're letting people know what your thoughts are. If you're doing any client visits, everyone's having client visits every single day. Or and these are things you take for granted. Where you go, actually, I'm going to physically meet someone. I'm going on the road. That sort of stuff. It's the stuff you should be sharing because actually they're great updates. They're great for clients because you could tag them if you've got that relationship, but it just lets people know how you're conducting business, but you still look very professional.
Yeah.
And then,
Definitely.
and then if you can tie in things like, yes, you've done this great cause, or actually you've ran your marathon, that stuff is great for personal branding because actually, if I know someone's done a marathon, I'll go, great, you know what? They've put in the extra work. I might not exactly tie it to their business, but like some people do, you go, actually, if someone's,
Discipline.
yeah, do you mean like that they're disciplined, they've got patience, they've got delayed gratification? There's tons of skills that can come with many different sports or hobbies. So even some of that stuff, you can go, actually, from a personal point of view, why don't you get people to know you in your
Yeah.
content with stuff like that? Because that's basically what we do in person. If you meet someone at a conference or a coffee shop, how much do you really talk about business?
5 minutes, maybe?
Yeah.
Another half an hour?
hmm And the rest is just like, what do you do on the weekend, or what are you into? Oh, no way, you run. How
Yeah.
often do you run? So you're actually just learning to do that on a professional platform, but having that, not a sales angle, but that angle of going, actually, everything you're doing, you're trying to sell the value of yourself and
Yeah.
sell the value of a conversation.
I think it's a good icebreaker as well, isn't it? Because the amount of sales calls that I've been on where I've seen what they've been posting or they've seen what I've been posting, and we've been able to have a 5, 6, 7 minute conversation at the beginning around a certain topic. Like I spoke to a lady even yesterday, and I saw that she had posted a lot about tennis, and then I found out that her husband is 70 years old and he's just run his first marathon. So it just makes it easier for you to have that initial interaction with somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. And you make a very good point there. So like every time I go on client calls or new prospect calls, I always check out their profile. And yeah, I had one guy who done some trail running around the Malvern Hills the other day, and I was just talking to him about that. So yeah, it just made us feel, we was on there for a strategy call, but I guess for him and for me, it didn't really feel like a strategy call. It felt like actually almost like we're mates. So he was a lot more open to me. But then the other way round is, like, we prospect on a lot of people, and the ones who post this sort of good personal content stuff that you can talk about, not just the company shares,
Not robotic content.
not just I've been told to do this, or I'm representing my company, so everything's company. They're actually easier people to engage with and start conversations with. So actually, from your point of view, is if you want people to engage with your content, talking about the personal experiences and the personal content, it's going to make people easier.
You're opening the door
To comment on your stuff. Now, we all know how people use LinkedIn, most social medias, but most people like to lurk and watch. Some will like, but there's a very little who, there's not very little, but in a comparison, there is a small amount who will comment because it's just that extra step of going the next step. So you can imagine if you're talking business, how hard is that to comment on someone without looking like you're interested in the business?
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got some more personal stuff, I might go, oh, great, Josh has done this. How long did it take you to train for that? Or do you think you're going to do another one? Do you mean it's just easier stuff to engage with?
Yeah, definitely. And I'd just like to emphasize as well, we are talking a lot about personal brand, but we're not saying don't post stuff about your business either, because that still has a place. It's just not doing that every single day and boring your audience.
Yeah, and it's learning to have like the real personal aspect of it. Like part of your business is still part of your persona, part of yourself. So actually just those, what are you thinking right now? Or what's your plan for 2025? Or do you mean that sort of stuff where you go, oh, great, we're moving into a new building. It's just nice for, if someone's going to buy from you, most people would like to know a lot about you. I mean, not just about business, but actually they'd like to know the person, because if they're trusting you to get them out of their problem, they've got to trust you first, isn't it? And they've got to like you. So actually documenting that, telling it, explaining it, and it's all different ways you can do it. You can do it in text, polls, video, podcasts like this. There are tons of ways, but it's just about working to your strengths.
Definitely. And I feel like from our point of view, I know I've got over 29,000 followers now. You're up close to that. People start to know you before you know them as well. So we'll jump on a call and they'll go, oh, I've been following Curtis's content, Josh's content, Dean's content for 3 or 4 months now. And just what we've been talking about for our content has built up rapport just in the background without us having even to speak to them.
Yeah, and like this even happens in person. So when we go to the networking events, so we got a big one in November. Is it Manchester or London?
London, the expo in London.
So the expo in London, we went there. Well, we've been there for the past 2 years. So many people come up to us as if they know us. And it feels great because sometimes you're like, oh, do I recognize this person? Do I know this person?
Second guessing yourself.
But it feels great them coming up to you, and it feels very natural because they've seen you all the time. So they're like, oh, it feels like I know you. It feels like I've spoken to you before. And even when we go to events, it's very nice to go, actually, I can actually put a face to the LinkedIn profile because I spoke to you loads, and now I'm actually seeing you. So all of that stuff is great. And it might not feel like it's working at the start, but honestly, there are tons of people who are watching I mean, how many times you jump on the call and you think this is brand new, and they go, "I've seen you, I've seen
Yeah.
Dean, or I've followed
So I've known
Maverrik
Maverrik for
webinars,"
like a year now.
and you think, where have you been? Where have you come from?
Yeah,
But
definitely. So what do you think has caused this trend in personal branding?
so the thing that has probably caused this thing in personal branding, I think, is just how digital the world has become.
Yeah.
So it's how digital the world has become, but also people working more remotely and like hybrid. So cold calling, email marketing, all of that stuff will always have its place, but it has gotten harder because more and more people work from home. You now got more gatekeepers because you're ringing an office number and actually people aren't there, or actually you've got hybrid days, you've got flexible days. So actually getting hold of people and people's concentration because of socials and all of that stuff is we want things quick, but we deal with things quick as well.
Yeah.
So if we don't see anything as super relevant, we just go, no point.
Yeah.
So one of the ways that's doing very well is they're going, okay, if everyone's spending their time on platforms like LinkedIn, I've got to have a brand, I've got to have a presence.
Yeah.
But the people who are just going on there and just who have no presence, but they're going all outbound, they're getting ignored. The people who are going on there and going, I need to sell, sell, sell. So it's business, business people.
They're
They're
getting
getting
ignored.
low engagement.
Yeah.
They're getting ignored. But the ones who are doing well are the ones who feel real and they're sharing that personal
Yeah.
story, their personal brand. So I think it's starting to catch on. And I think people have always realized with the digital world, it's all about how well you can sell and market yourself at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's the same with enterprise companies. So not just like your one-man bands, your small businesses, but any large company, they're understanding that if their employees can advocate their businesses socially, I think there's statistics where 60% of your audience will trust what your seniors say on LinkedIn. Something silly like 72% are more likely to repost stuff that comes from a senior person than the company page.
Yeah.
We just like to buy into people.
I think that's more evident more and more, isn't it?
Mm.
And social media's just amplified that. Because
Yeah.
it was always the same, like you mentioned, you'd be on the golf course and you would see someone 15, 20 times and you'd have a beer afterwards in the 90s and it
Yeah.
would work all like that.
And you go for lunches,
Yeah.
dinners, tea
It's
pies.
just a different way of doing it
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
And I think LinkedIn's just, it's great because if you do it right, it feels very soft, like posting content,
Yeah.
running podcasts, doing webinars. It's just the way the world's going. I mean, like even your Instagrams, how many times are you scrolling and you stop because you see a 60-second podcast snippet? YouTube full of podcasts now because everyone's just looking to build out their brand.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
Perfect. So just one more question from me.
Yeah.
And it's more for the audience. What piece of advice would you give to someone? Just one piece of advice to get their personal brand up and running.
One piece of advice to get someone's personal brand up and running is, well, it might be two pieces of advice here. It's really have a systemized plan and have some goals so you know what that plan needs to be. So for example, if me and Josh went, you know what, we really want to build our personal brand. Our aim is to get to 30,000 followers next year. Want to generate a couple of inbound leads and get some clients. When we're running podcasts like this on YouTube, we probably want to get a following of 1,000 subscribers. Anything that could be measured is a good thing. And then when it comes to your plan, it's just breaking down that plan into smaller achievable goals and milestones so you don't neglect the small wins. And I think because things are moving so quick these days, everyone gets bored or frustrated before they actually start to see results. So it's just going, actually, if my plan is to post content on a daily basis, if it's to run a podcast, if it's to run webinars, how do you break that into smaller goals? Okay. Impressions, I want to get about 500 impressions per post. I want to start posting more video content. Webinars, I want to get 200 registered attendees. I want to present a nice presentation visually. When you're doing podcasts, I want to talk about 5 different topics and focus one on personal branding, focus one on sales. If you can break it down into those key milestones, it's much more achievable, but it's also a lot more easier to be consistent because you know what you're aiming for.
And also celebrating those small wins as well.
So what would yours be then?
So I think my main piece of advice would be to not give up. So like you mentioned, you get so many people where they'll go, oh, I'll do this. Even I've been doing it for like 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, and they haven't seen any direct correlation towards their goal. I would say carry on doing it. You see like even some of the big podcasts like Joe Rogan is an example. I know I'm picking the best in the space, but you see some of his old videos. It took him 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years for him to be at a stage where he can get those big deals, get those big guests, etc., etc. So yeah, don't give up, carry on. And if you're struggling with something, then reach out to people who are experts.
Yeah,
as well.
Reach out, learn. There's no harm. I mean, we are very good at LinkedIn, but doesn't mean we're the best at everything. So even me and Josh jump on regular seminars. We jump on regular webinars. At the moment, we're looking into like some referral stuff to go. Actually, can we better our referrals? So me and Josh are checking out books. We're jumping on calls with people. We're engaging with people, and we're not afraid to ask that question, because at the end of the day, especially on a platform like LinkedIn, everyone's very supportive, I find.
Yeah.
So just asking that question and have that plan, and then don't give up, because it does take time.
Yeah.
Some people move quicker, some people don't. But it's just about going, if you haven't moved quicker, why haven't I moved quicker? Where's
Analysing
my
it.
milestone? What can I improve?
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
Perfect. Well, yeah, so that's a wrap up for the first podcast. Just to give you a bit more of a background as well, we will be doing 2 of these per month now, and we will be bringing in different guests, etc., from part of the team here. So yeah, that's episode 1, and thanks for joining us.
Cheers.